Information discussed in this podcast may be sensitive in nature to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Rico Harris grew up the oldest of 4 children. He was a shy kid, but a fun and likable child too. He excelled at basketball, following in his father's footsteps. He attended high school in his Los Angeles suburb, and while he took a basketball break his junior year, he did return to play once again in his senior year. Rico had plans to attend college, but he did struggle at school academically, and his options would be limited. When he couldn't get into UCLA as he had hoped due to his low SAT scores, Rico decided to attend Los Angeles City College, where he was the star player on the basketball team. In 1998, Rico entered the NBA draft, but he pulled himself out because he felt he wasn't ready. Rico did go on to play international ball and eventually joined the Harlem Globetrotters. Rico had to leave the Harlem Globetrotters due to an injury, and he struggled with finding his identity without basketball in his life. In 2014, Rico decided to relocate to Seattle, Washington to live with his girlfriend. In October of 2014, Rico made a spontaneous trip back to Los Angeles to visit his family and make amends with his mother. Things didn't go that well, however, and at 1:00 a.m., Rico decided to leave Los Angeles and drive back home to Seattle. But Rico never made it home. His car was found abandoned in a strange, out-of-the-way location in California. Sightings of Rico would come in as well. But still, no sign of Rico was found. Where is Rico Omar Harris? Hello, and welcome to a bonus episode of the Where Are They podcast. If you are here, thank you so much for being a member and supporting our show. The story of Rico Harris has baffled everyone involved, and his status as a former Harlem Globetrotter has helped his case gain some media attention. The story of his childhood, however, is pretty tragic, and he definitely had a lot of struggles. His basketball talent was said to be out of this world, but he couldn't gain the focus to really and truly see it through, as you'll see. And it's truly sad because this man could have been quite the NBA star, but most importantly, he was a son, a brother, and a friend to so many people. So many people cared about Rico. Perhaps he didn't even realize how many. Rico was born on May 19th, 1977. He was the first child for his parents. His mother, Margaret, was only 17 years old when he was born. His father, Henry Harris, was a star basketball player at Idaho State University, and he played several years of semi-pro basketball. Rico's childhood was marred with troubles, however, and it was said that Henry was abusive, both physically and mentally, and Margaret struggled to raise her children and deal with this life. Finally, Margaret did gather the strength to leave her husband, but raising 4 kids alone was still tough. And as the oldest child, Rico took on a lot of the responsibilities of helping his mother out around the house and caring for his younger siblings. This was a lot of pressure on young Rico. During this time, Rico was also struggling in school. He didn't do well academically, but he did find comfort on the basketball court. And in high school, he quickly became a basketball standout for the first couple of years. But for some reason, at age 15, Rico quit the basketball team. He switched high schools, and things were tough for him still. Finally, his senior year, he transferred back to his original school, Temple City, and he rejoined the basketball team. And almost immediately, he was garnering interest from college. UCLA expressed interest in Rico right away, and he had hoped to attend college there and stay nearby his family and friends. But Rico's SAT scores were too low, and eventually UCLA rescinded their offer to Rico. Rico instead chose to go to Arizona State University. His freshman year of college didn't go as planned. Rico found himself in some legal trouble, and even though those criminal charges against him would be dropped, Arizona State told him that they were suspending him for 1 year. Instead of sitting out and waiting that year out, Rico transferred to Los Angeles City College. And here he became an instant basketball star, and he would actually lead the college to their first state junior college title ever. From there, Rico transferred once again to Cal State, and in 1998, he entered himself in the NBA draft. Before he could be drafted, however, Rico pulled himself out of the running and said he just wasn't personally ready for the NBA. Rico instead went on to play international basketball, first with the San Diego Stingrays and then for the St. Louis Storm. In 2000, Rico joined the Harlem Globetrotters. The Harlem Globetrotters are described by Wikipedia as an American exhibition basketball team. They combine athleticism, theater, and comedy in their style of play. Now, everyone who knew Rico thought this was a great fit for him and his talents. But unfortunately, Rico was involved in an assault and he suffered a head injury that would end his basketball career for good. Not much has really been said about this assault other than Rico was attacked and he was hit on the head with a baseball bat, and this head injury caused him chronic headaches, dizziness, and he often lost his balance. He was no longer able to play the sport he loved. From 2001 to 2007, Rico struggled. He didn't have basketball anymore to fall back on or to turn to, and his home life was still tough as well. He ended up turning to alcohol and eventually drugs, dabbling with cocaine and heroin. In 2007, when Rico turned 30, he decided it was time to turn his life around and he checked himself into rehab. Once out of rehab, Rico seemed to be doing well. He was doing better. In 2012, he began dating Jennifer Song, a young woman who lived in Seattle, Washington. 2 years later, Rico decided it was time to leave Los Angeles behind and move to Seattle with Jennifer. We don't know a whole lot of details about Rico's family life in Los Angeles, but we do know that he struggled there and he had trouble with his family. Moving to Seattle seemed like a good, fresh start for Rico. And Rico would end up landing an interview with a property appraisal company up in Seattle. He was truly excited about this new adventure. And it's also worth noting that Rico had now been clean and sober for 7 years. This job interview that he had was scheduled for October 12th. On October 9th, Rico spontaneously decided to drive back to Los Angeles and meet with his mother. We don't know for sure what really prompted this visit, but some have speculated that he wanted to clear the air with his family. He wanted to work things out. He drove straight through from Seattle to Los Angeles, and that evening he had dinner with his brother, and then he went back to the house to speak with his mother. We don't really know how that conversation went, and for whatever reason, Rico decided to leave her house at 1:00 a.m. and start the journey back to Seattle. He called Jennifer to let her know that he was on his way. At 10:45 a.m., October 10th, he once again called his girlfriend, but this time he left her a voice message. He stated that he was going to pull off the highway and get some rest. From there, Rico ceased communication. Jennifer and Rico's family continued to try and reach Rico all day, but his phone was going straight to voicemail. They at first wondered if maybe he just didn't have service driving through that part of California. Maybe his phone had died. Or maybe he truly just needed some time to himself. So they decided to give him a few days. By October 14th, however, 3 days after Rico was last seen or heard from, and after missing this job interview that he was so excited for, Rico was finally reported as missing. That same day, a Yolo County Sheriff deputy had noticed a Nissan Maxima parked in a parking lot across from Cache Creek. It had been parked there for a couple of days. He took a look around and he found the car full of papers, CDs, and credit cards. And after running the plates, they learned that it was registered to Rico at his mother's address in Alhambra, California. So Yolo County Sheriff contacted the Alhambra Police Department, who went to Rico's mother's house to inquire about the car. Once they put all the pieces together that this car had been driven by Rico and no one had seen or heard from him in 3 days, a full-fledged search and rescue effort began. Search teams hit the area with ATVs, search dogs, and helicopters. They even used thermal imaging cameras to search for Rico, and authorities figured this 6'9", 240-pound man wouldn't be able to hide easily in that area. So I was curious, what kind of area are we looking at here? Cache Creek and Interstate 16, where Rico's car was found, is just north of Sacramento. It's rural, and by the looks of it on Google Maps, there's a lot of farmland. And I'd have to agree, a 6'9", 240-pound man in that area should be easy to spot. Interstate 16 is also off the beaten path a bit, not the normal route that he would be taking if he were going straight back to Seattle. And that creek, although not large, was also searched, and no signs of Rico were found. It's also interesting that his car was found in this area, and when it was towed, they discovered that it was out of gas and had a dead battery. Does that mean Rico had possibly left his car running? Detectives found evidence that he had just stopped for gas back in Lodi, California, about 80 miles away, the early morning hours of October 10th. So he certainly shouldn't have run out of gas already, unless he had drove around for quite a bit or possibly just left the car running, which might also explain the dead battery. Detectives did find that his backpack was missing, one of his credit cards was unaccounted for, and his cell phone was missing. Although cell phone records indicated that his phone had been turned off since October 10th, shortly after he left that voicemail for Jennifer. With no signs of Rico, they started to alert the public of his disappearance, hoping to get some leads, and they got some. Several people called with sightings of Rico, including and starting back on October 11th. The first caller said they saw Rico. It was October 11th, the day after he left his girlfriend a message. They said they saw him walking on Route 16. Another caller said they saw him on October 11th also, and then he had been sitting on a guardrail. And when authorities went to that area where that guardrail was, they did indeed find Rico's backpack with his cell phone, but no sign of Rico. They did go through his phone and they found photographs and video of Rico that were time-stamped on the night of October 10th. Rico seemed happy in these photos. On October 18th, a motorist saw Rico on the side of the road walking. Again, law enforcement went to that area to check it out, and they ended up finding footprints of a size 18 shoe. Rico wore a size 18 shoe. There have been no additional clues as to the whereabouts of Rico Harris. So what does law enforcement believe happened here? Detectives do not believe there was foul play. There was no sign of foul play in that area. Rico appeared alone in the photos and video that he had on his phone, and all the sightings that came in of him were of just him. One of the thoughts is that Rico possibly made a wrong turn, leading him to this area. He pulled over for a rest and then decided to get out and walk the area. He could have possibly become lost again, or because of his personal troubles with his past and his family, perhaps he just wanted to walk away for some time. Authorities also believe, by the sightings of Rico and the footprints, that he might have tried to return to his car later, only to find out that it had been towed. What does make me wonder about this, however, is what was he doing out there during those several days? How was he surviving? There's no shelter. Did he have water? What was he doing? It is believed that he eventually had to have left the area, probably getting into a vehicle, because there have been no additional sightings, and despite thorough searches of the area, there has been nothing found. I don't know what to think of this one. This whole thing seems bizarre, but no matter what happened, Rico has remained undiscovered for almost 10 years now. Did he leave on his own accord? Did something happen to Rico while he was out there? But where is he? Rico is described as a black male, 6'9" tall, and weighing around 240 pounds when he was last seen in October of 2014. He has brown eyes and he wore his dark hair very short. He was 37 years old then, and he would today be 46. Anyone with any information on the whereabouts of Rico Harris is asked to call the Yolo County Sheriff's Office at 530-666-8282. What do you think happened to Rico Harris? I'm really curious to hear what others think on this case. Thank you for listening to Rico's story today. Another mysterious disappearance and a family who has never given up looking for their son, their brother, their friend. Thank you also for being a supporter of our show as a subscriber or on Patreon. We couldn't keep this going without your support. If anyone has any case suggestions or feedback, please reach out via social media or email me anytime. We will be back again very soon with another unsolved missing persons case. And until then, stay safe and hug your loved ones.